Hello, and welcome to the Hey Boomer Show, the show for those of us who believe that we are never too old to set another goal or dream a new dream. My name is Wendy Green, and I am your host for Hey Boomer. This weekend, I was out in my garden quite a bit. I have a raised bed garden, and in there, I have about 6 sugar snap peas that are really looking healthy. I have 2 pepper plants, all of which are looking good, and a couple of tomato plants, a lettuce that's really struggling. It's not looking real happy. My fig tree is waking up, new leaves bursting up to the sun. It's wonderful. I planted wildflowers last week, fertilized everything. I just love, love, love this time of year. But fortunately, we also had some rain this weekend, and I was able to snuggle up on my couch and finish reading the second book in the Pinion Scorpion series, Murder in Haxford. And our guest today, Rick Bleiweiss, has written 2 of these Pinion Scorpion books. They deal with barbershop detectives. They're really fun books. He's also written a short story in an anthology called Hotel California, another mystery. So they are fun. They have definitely kept my interest. And I wasn't able to figure out the whodunit. Darn it. And I really tried. So I'm going to bring Rick on in a few minutes. Hi, David. Before I bring him on, I want to talk about our sponsor, Road Scholar. You know that they are the not-for-profit leader in educational travel for people over 55 and for grandparent-grandchild trips. But when I was on their website the other day, I noticed a tab that said View Special Offers. So I clicked on it. And there you see a choice for singles at no extra cost. Now, you know how many travel companies will charge extra unless you have 2 people in the room. The trips that were listed at singles for no extra cost included trips to places like Scotland, Costa Rica, Peru, hiking and canoeing in Michigan and Wisconsin, or whitewater rafting in Oregon's Grand Canyon. So all sound like fun options. You can go check out the Road Scholar opportunities for travel at roadscholar.org/heyboomer. And please do use the /heyboomer because that lets them know that you heard about their offers from this show, and it keeps them happy as a sponsor. You've also heard me talk about the Boomer Banter. It has been so much fun. It's an online virtual community where we get together once a month on the 3rd Tuesday of every month. And we talk about all kinds of various topics, and we learn and we grow together. But I was asking some of the people that come to the banter why they come, what do they get out of it? So here are a couple of the answers I got. One person said, I joined the banter for the camaraderie, the community, and an opportunity to meet and engage with new people. It was so much fun. It was something I wanted to continue and something I look forward to every month. Another person said, I really like the banter because you give me something new to think about, and I enjoy hearing other perspectives and meeting new people. And another person said, it's fun to meet people and exchange ideas, opinions, laughs, etc. And I work alone all day, so it's good to see faces and hear voices in a non-work mode. I also enjoy it because it's a fun after dinner activity, sort of like dessert with friends. Don't you love that? Dessert with friends? And that is definitely what it would be for East Coast people, because we meet from 6:30 to 7:30 East Coast time, like I said, on the third Tuesday of every month. But for you West Coast people, you could think about life is short, have dessert first, and then join us and have dinner afterwards. If you are interested in finding out more about the banter, signing up for the membership, you can find it on the Hey Boomer homepage at heyboomer.biz, B-I-Z. It's $12 a month. You can try it out for 1 month and see if you like it, or it's $116 for the year. So come and join our community. We would love to have you there. All right, so let me tell you a bit about Rick. Oh, I'm seeing so many fun people. Okay, so Rick has been a publishing executive, author, newspaper and magazine columnist, former music industry executive, and record producer. In the music industry, he worked with many superstars and film soundtracks and produced over 50 records, including one that was Grammy nominated. Since 2006, Rick has been head of business development for Blackstone Publishing and Audio, acquiring works by numerous best-selling authors and celebrities. At 78 years old, he was 77. At 77, his first novel, Pinion Scorpion and the Barbershop Detectives, was published to great acclaim and was Amazon's #1 best-selling cozy mystery and #1 historical mystery. Rick's second book in the series, Murder in Haxford, the one I finished this weekend, was published this past February, and Rick is now 78. Additionally, his story in the mystery anthology Hotel California has received great reviews. Rick is a member of the International Thriller Writers, Mystery Writers of America, Historical Novel Society, Sisters in Crime, and the Pacific Northwest Writers Association, among other organizations. Wow, Rick. Welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, Wendy. I'm glad to be here.
I have enjoyed every time we've talked, so I'm glad to bring you to this audience.
Cool.
So we call this show, Rick, Don't Stop Chasing Rainbows. And we called it that because that was something you mentioned to me the first time we talked. Can you tell me what you mean about not stopping chasing rainbows?
Yes, surely. Well, basically, my whole life, I've kind of been an entrepreneur and a creative person, both business and creative, kind of have a left brain, right brain going on simultaneously. And I've always just tried new things, whether it was in business I were working for or on my own as a venture person, on my own entrepreneur. And now that I'm older, I don't see any reason why I shouldn't keep doing what I've been doing my whole life, chasing the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. And, you know, I find the chase is exciting. And, you know, sometimes you find the pot of gold, sometimes you don't. But, you know, if you have the energy and the enthusiasm and the interest, I don't think I'll ever stop. And I don't think anyone else should.
So you are now chasing a pot of gold as a writer and as an executive in the publishing industry. And then you were talking about something else earlier. What other rainbows are you chasing?
Well, I'm in the toward the end of writing a film script of a original idea I have had, and the best way I could describe it is it would sort of be like if Home Alone met the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel. I'll leave that up to everybody's imagination as to what that will result in, and hopefully you might see it on the silver screen one day.
I want to see it. I do want to see it because it sounds like so much fun. Have you ever written a movie script before?
No, not really. No, I bought a film script writing, you know, online program, and I did research and I read. That's how we do a lot of things I do. and I just started writing the film script. And I've got a couple of friends who have written film scripts, and they said as soon as I'm done with it, they'd like to read it, and they'll make sure it's in the right format, and hopefully they'll enjoy it too.
Oh, yeah, it sounds great. But let's talk about some of the mystery books that you've written. So I'm always curious how people come up with ideas for stories. Um, and and while you're telling me that, how did you come up with his name, Pinion Scorpion?
Okay, I'll start with how I came up with his name. Uh,
Okay.
and the real answer is research, because I did a ton of research to get the minutia right in these books. And part of that was names. I made sure I knew what names were popular in the era, etc. But as far as Scorpion goes, I kind of wanted to come up with a name that was similar in its uniqueness, if you will, to Sherlock Holmes and Hercule Poirot. Those are not your run of the mill everyday names. So I wanted a character who had a distinctive name. And I knew, and I'll get to how I write, and it's part of how I knew his ancestry would be Egyptian father and Haitian mother. That was just part of what came to me. And so I started researching Arabic and Egyptian last names, family names, and I came across many of them. And when I came across Scorpion, which stood for adventurous and entrepreneurial, which applied to his father in the first book, there's a backstory of how his dad and mom met. I just realized it fit the character, and it was a familiar sounding word because it was like scorpion,
Right.
but it's just a little offshoot of it. So I liked that. And then as I'm researching Haiti, I find that there is an actual mountain and valley in Haiti called Pignon that was named after the French explorer who was the first European to go to that region. And that's where I postulated in the book Scorpion's mother came from. So I just thought it'd be cool to ceremoniously name him after the Pignon region. And then when I strung them together, I liked the way Pignon Scorpion worked as a name.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you put the actual correct pronunciation in the book because I would never have gotten it right otherwise.
There are a few people who have called him Pignon. I agree.
Pignon, right? That's how it looks, pignon. But I like pignon. That sounds much more sophisticated.
And as to how I write, there are plotters and there are pantsers. There may be others as well. Plotters plot out everything they're going to write beforehand. They may have sticky notes on the wall or bullet points or outlines. And I don't write like that at all. I am a pantser. I fly by the seat of my pants. And I just see the stories play out in my mind like movies. And my job is to sit at my computer keyboard and capture for someone who's going to read it or see it what I'm seeing play out in my mind. And I often have parts of a story, like I didn't have Scorpion's name, but I had his background in my mind.
Huh.
And it's kind of like flow. I don't know if you're familiar with the word flow. It's kind of
Yeah.
become a hip
Yeah.
or a used term these days. And I get caught in the flow of the story and like everything else disappears. And I'm just capturing these characters in their universe.
Which comes across, Rick. It comes across that you're enjoying these characters as much as the reader is enjoying the characters.
Oh, I
Yeah.
totally do. Yeah. I mean, they're like a second set of friends to me. It's a different life that's going on there. But in my mind, it's as real life is because I get so lost in it that they become other characters in my life.
Now, why did you decide to set this in early England?
Um, Well, part of it is because of how much I really enjoy and have read all of Holmes and Poirot and Marple and many other of the era English mysteries, and so I
Hmm.
kind of am steeped as a reader in that. Um, but beyond that, I specifically put it in the era it is because it's it bridges when uh, Poirot started coming to prominence and when Holmes had died. So this is the era right between those two events. So I thought this would be a good bridge era. Plus,
Ah,
it wasn't World War One was not involved yet. I didn't really want to deal with that in the writing, and also I found that the year 1910 England was an interesting year of a number of events happening, including George V becoming king. Edward VII had been his father. The first round trip flight over the English Channel was taken that year, and it was taken by a man named Charles Rolls, whose partner, Henry Royce, you can see where that led to, Rolls Royce. But Rolls also became the first aviation fatality in English history that same year as
mm.
well. And also, the man who invented the toilet, Thomas Crapper, died that year. So I don't know. It was just cool. And as far as England, I've been to England many times. In fact, I was at a castle and I won a crossbow shooting contest.
Oh,
Yeah,
aha, the crossbow.
yeah. Some of what's in my books, I've been in hot air balloons. Some of it, kind of like does pull on experiences I've had. It just felt natural to me to put it then and there, being a fan of that era, the Downton Abbey, Sherlock Holmes era.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there certainly are fun. When you start reading it, you're hearing that more old English kind of talk conversation. And so for me, it took me a moment to get acclimated to that. But then the characters really do come alive. You've done a great job with that.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So, as you said to me, you're 78, you're going to be 79 in July, I think you said?
Correct. Yep.
In July. So how do you experience aging, Rick?
How do I experience it? Well, I think about it. I mean, I'd be lying if I didn't say it doesn't cross my mind, but I don't fear it. Um, you know, I happen to believe in the spiritual and quantum planes, and so I think there's a further adventure awaiting me after this life is done. I don't know what it'll be, but I'm looking forward to it as another adventure. Um, I also kind of look at aging as interesting because I work because I want to, not because I have to. And also because I think of my age and experience, um, people accept advice from me,
Mm.
and some people look to me for advice. And I enjoy that. I enjoy mentoring people, helping people. I've done that my whole life. And I guess as I get older, I've got more wisdom built up to impart.
At the Blackstone Publishing Company, you are working with, I think, much younger people. Is that right?
In general, that is true. Yes.
Yeah. So how does that play out? Do you feel like you're learning from them, they're learning from you?
Yes. I am certainly not up on contemporary trends and things, probably as my younger counterparts. So I do learn from them every day. And I hope that they take away things that I do and learn from me. And I think it's a very great symbiotic relationship. And I really, truly enjoy everybody I work with. And that's great. I mean, it's a fabulous work environment and culture. And I couldn't ask for anything more.
So I have to ask you though, many people in this age group um, find it very difficult to find another meaningful job. And certainly you're an executive there now. So that's a meaningful job that you have. Um, how did you get introduced and get the opportunity that you have there?
Well, the opportunity to be an employee of Blackstone it happened in this manner. I have a friend named Christopher who lives in Portland, Oregon. And Christopher comes from a very theatrical family. He himself is a film director, film and TV director. He's an actor. He comes from England. In fact, he has proofed my books to make sure I got England right. But his uncle, great uncle, was James M. Barrie, who wrote Peter Pan.
Oh, wow.
And Christopher owned and still owns the audio rights to Winnie the Pooh. So back in, I think it was 2006, Christopher called up one day and said to me and my wife, Deborah, I'm coming down to Ashland, where we live in Oregon, and I'm going to be licensing, meeting with Blackstone Audio, it was audio at the time, to license them Winnie the Pooh. And I said to him, what's a Blackstone? And he explained, the Blackstone was one of the oldest and biggest audiobook companies. And he said, do you mind when I'm down there if I stayed with you? We said, of course. So he stayed with us. He met with Craig Black, who was the founder and owner of Blackstone, licensed him Winnie the Pooh. We still have it. And in the course of the conversations with Craig, Christopher mentioned me and my wife, Deborah. And you should know that Deborah, in addition to me, was also a senior executive in the music industry.
Okay.
And so Christopher said to Craig, Rick and Deborah probably have some New York corporate knowledge that no one in your organization has. They could probably add to your organization in some way. You should meet with them. So Craig called us and we met with him for lunch the next week. And at the end of the lunch, Craig said, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do with you, but Christopher was right. You will have knowledge that my organization will benefit from. So how about joining my board of directors and becoming consultants to the company? And that's how it started. That lasted about a year. Then Deborah retired fully. And I went on staff, still on the board, and I've been with Blackstone ever since.
So that was very helpful to have a friend like that to make that introduction. Yeah.
Absolutely. You know what? Networking, friends, that's an important part of life, period. You never know where friendships and networks are going to lead.
Yes, so true. I think having and learning how to ask for help from friends sometimes is important.
No, when Deborah and I left New York and retired from the music industry and moved out here to Southern Oregon, I quickly got bored. I mean, I'm a total type A personality. I even once did biofeedback, and they found that I was more relaxed when I was problem solving than when I was trying to relax. So I got very bored, and I joined the boards of directors of a number of local nonprofits, and I still didn't feel like I was really utilizing everything that was going on in my brain, all the knowledge I had. So when this opportunity came along, I just went, wow, this is great. I mean, this will make me vital and vibrant again. And coincidentally, at the same time, I started writing fiction. So it's sort of like the two tracks happened almost simultaneously, but independently.
And that's so interesting, because I think sometimes when we clear the space from our past and the other work that we used to do, new things can start to evolve. And I was going to ask you about that because you had experience writing nonfiction articles and stuff.
Right.
Was it a difficult transition to start writing fiction?
Honestly, no. I'm not sure why I didn't do it earlier in my career,
Huh.
but I had a next door neighbor here who was a poet, and she was in a writers group with poets, memoirists, nonfiction writers, novelists. And I had learned from me that I had written nonfiction. She said, why don't you join the group? I think people like you, you'd like them. So I joined the group. I really enjoyed the people. And I just said, hey, I'm going to try my hand writing fiction. And fiction stories just kept popping in my brain and channeling through me.
It's amazing. Yeah, we used to play a game in the car when we were traveling, where somebody would give a little piece of a story and then somebody else would try and build onto it. But to sit down and write a whole book, man, I have a lot of admiration for you.
You know, actually, Scorpion is the third book I wrote. The first book that I wrote was a science fiction fantasy book. The second one was a magical realism road trip book. And neither of those were able to get any kind of traction or publishing contract. And even, in fact, my writing group, you know, when I wrote them, they liked them, but they said, these aren't the ones. When I
Mm.
started reading them, the very first of Scorpion, to a person, they said, that's the one.
Wow. So are other people in your writing group published?
Yes, many of them. I'm
Many
not
of
in
them.
that group anymore. Unfortunately, people moved away, a few people passed away. But yes, those who were and are still around, definitely, many of them have been published.
Huh. So tell me about your time in the music industry. What was some of the highlights for you?
Wow, some of the highlights. Well, I've got to tell you, I got to certainly one of the highlights was producing records. You know, I mean, I just, as I said, I love the creative and I love the business end. So I'll talk a little bit about both. I loved being a performer,
Mm.
uh, and I loved producing records. And as you said, one of them got a Grammy nomination. It was a spoken word record with Steve Allen and Jane Meadows.
Oh,
It
wow.
was, in the early days of home computers, when there was like Texas Instruments and Commodore, uh,
Right.
and nobody really knew what was going on. I put together, it was my idea, and I put together an album called Everything You Wanted to Know About Home Computers, but didn't know who to ask. And I had a computer expert write it, and we did a whole booklet and the whole thing, and it got nominated for Best Spoken Word, and we lost out to Shari Lewis and her puppet Lamb Chop.
Oh, I remember her.
Stuff happens. Um, And I had another group that I put together called Moon Lion, and they were in the disco era, and they were named by a music historian one of the top instrumental disco groups of all time. And the NFL used one of their songs for 3 years in their holiday broadcast. And the other thing, I just going through some papers recently, I just discovered, and had forgotten, was that another disco record I made with them was a disco version of Sweet Georgia Brown, and the Harlem Globetrotters ended up using it as the version intro outro for their TV show Popcorn Machine, and then
Oh,
for all
wow.
the live performances. So stuff like that, I just absolutely loved. I loved performing. My group opened for Three Dog Night the day the men landed on the moon,
Oh,
and
wow.
Three Dog Night refused to go on until the moon landing was over so they could see it. So we ended up playing like three sets in a row while that was
Uh,
there. So I love that. As far as business goes, I mean, I worked with them. I'm not bragging here; it's just a fact. I worked with tons and tons of superstar music acts. You know, Whitney Houston, U2, Britney Spears, Backstreet Boys, NSYNC. I don't know. I'm just David Bowie. I'm forgetting many of them,
sure, yeah.
and I enjoyed that. But what I really loved was I got to work, as you had said earlier, on a lot of film soundtracks,
Mhm.
and I worked on the first three Star Wars soundtracks.
Oh, nice.
I was at the Lucas Ranch, and you know, George was there. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Well, probably the funnest one was This Is Spinal Tap. I don't know if you remember that.
I do.
And
Uh-huh.
I put together the entire marketing campaign, not just for the album, but it almost became the marketing campaign for the entire project. And it was just a hoot working with the guys and Rob Reiner. And, you know, I worked Chariots of Fire. And I remember when we came out from the screening, some of our people are going, well, there's no blood, there's no guts, there's no sex. How is this movie ever going to make it? You know? And of course, we had
It's a
this
brilliant movie. Yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah.
I just, you know, it's hard to single things out because in general, I really enjoy what I do. I've been fortunate that I told my sons, if you work at your passion, it will seem less like work. I've
Mhm.
always looked at my passion, and it's always seemed like less work.
Which is such a gift, right? My sister used to tell me that, and it didn't happen until I started doing the podcast and coaching people. Then I really felt it. Um, so I did a survey recently about retirement. MIT put out a thing that said men, when they retire, they just want leisure, and women need to find purpose. So I'm wondering, as you look around at your compadres, people, I don't know, from 55 on up that might be thinking about retirement, what do you see?
Um, I see too many people who aren't still being active. Uh, that doesn't mean they're not enjoying their lives, but they're sort of like going, I don't have any new worlds to conquer. And that's okay, because to me, it's whatever makes the individual happy. That's what life should be about, happiness and kindness. And as long as you're happy, what does it matter? But I don't see the difference. And I guess by that definition, I must have a pretty strong feminine side. But but I I don't see a difference between the men and the women. Although it is interesting, because in the nonprofits that I was working with here locally, there were many more older women involved with them than men. There's no question of that. Now, as I look back on it, I don't know if that's typical or not.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an interesting question, because I think I look at myself, right? I can't not have something meaningful to do.
Yeah,
And then I guess the other question is, well, can leisure be meaningful? And as you said, if you're happy with it, why not?
yeah. I'm not a pickleball player. I'm not a bridge player. I'm not a tennis player. I guess I'm a couch potato in some ways. And I just, to me, the intellectual pursuits, the writing, the work, it's what keeps me energized. Betty Friedan, a comment, a statement that I love. She said, "Aging is not lost youth, but a new stage of opportunity and strength." And
Oh, yes.
and that's kind of how I look at life. But that doesn't mean it's true for everyone. But I don't think I would urge people who haven't tried, who are older and haven't tried continuing their pursuits in life, if they are unhappy in their position in life, to try it. What do you got to lose? I mean, that's another thing. I've never had an issue with rejection. I mean, some people, it's like a stagger through the heart. I kind of think it goes with the territory. If you're trying something new, or you're trying something that's intellectual or creative, the likelihood is you're going to fail, more likelihood than you're going to succeed. So it comes with the territory. Live with it.
Which is why I so wanted you on this show, because that's the philosophy I try to put out here is, try things, see what you like, what you don't like, you can let it go, but this is your time of life to experiment, to try new things, to
Oh,
write a mystery story, Murder in Haxford.
yeah.
So this one actually has two mysteries in it. I
Yes.
know. Here I was reading this during the rain and thinking, okay, we solved one, but there's more pages. Yes.
I kind of look at it that in real life, police officers don't necessarily have the luxury of only working one case at a time. Or so I try to, like go, okay, what would happen over the course of a month? Would there just be one case? So,
Well, in this little England English town, like a couple of murders, several murders. I was like, oh dear, that's a
it's sort
very
Well, if you look at Murder She Wrote and The Small Cabot Cove, they had murder up the yin yang. And then if you look at Death in Paradise, which is one of my favorite BritBox shows, this little tiny island nation has murder after. It comes with the territory.
yeah, yeah, and it's so fun how he brings in these um, uh, different kinds of characters from the barbershop, who have no police background, but have an interest and they ask interesting questions. And then, of course, you have to have the love interest in there. So I'm
Well,
not going to give that away.
no, but I will tell you that the female bookstore owner, probably she and Scorpion are my two single favorite characters.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it shows because you like talk about how they're dressed and their attire and their hats. And yeah, it's fun. So what's next for you, Rick?
Well, let's see. I'm have just finished half of and the full proposal for a business book on caring leadership.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
so I've kind of reached back into my past and my experiences and my own style of management and what I saw around me, and kind of
Uh-huh.
postulate that you don't have to be, I'll use the word, you don't have to be an asshole to get good, solid business results. And in fact, in today's day and age, when the younger generations are caring so much more about the culture they're working in and the jobs that they're doing, I think it's important to have caring leadership to maximize businesses and staff these days. So that book, my agent will be going out with that shortly. I'm writing my memoir, and I'm writing that film script,
Oh,
and
goodness.
I have no idea what else, but I'll be writing something else.
Oh, by the way, you're also on the board and building this business, this publishing company. Wow. Do you sleep, Rick?
Yeah, I sleep pretty well. The days I don't do a lot is when I don't sleep that well.
Yeah, yeah. So you don't like wake up at night with, I know where this mystery's going. That doesn't happen to you?
It happens, but it usually happens when I wake up in the morning. I don't prematurely wake up with an idea. I can't say it never happened, but it's not usual. I no,
Huh.
and
Okay.
I do have a pad and pen next to my on my nightstand just for that reason.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, if you could, from your vantage point now and looking back at the people that we've talked about, the 55 and up, if you could give a couple of takeaways that you think would benefit, maybe it's in the business realm, maybe it's in the personal realm, what would you offer as a couple of takeaways?
Uh, well, the first takeaway would be have fun. Seriously. The second one is don't stop living just because you're aging. If you've got a dream and you've got the ability to energy to go for it, go for it. Um, Take shots. I mean, I think Wayne Gretzky said you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, or
That's
so
right.
exactly. Um, and another thing I would say is think of your life positively. Do you watch the show Grace and Frankie?
I love that show.
Okay, there's a character on the show, Mary Elizabeth. She's one of
Right.
the friends, right? Now, in the very last episode of the show, Mary Elizabeth said something, which was obviously written by the writers of the show, but it came out of her mouth, that
Right.
I agreed with so much, I wrote it down so I wouldn't forget it. And what Mary Elizabeth said was, you are always going to be disappointed if all you remember are your failures.
Oh, beautiful. That's
So,
right.
so part of it is as you look at your life, both going forward and looking back, don't be filled with angst, regret. Look at the happy times in your life. I try to remember my successes, not my failures.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
And when
Thank you.
I'm going to, if you don't mind for a second, I,
Okay.
I would like to just quickly talk about a book that I acquired at Blackstone that
Okay.
fits what we're doing.
And that
Um,
we're gonna hopefully have on in a future show.
and this is the book. It's called The Wisdom of Maury by Maury Schwartz, Living and Aging Creatively and Joyfully. And Maury is the Maury of Tuesdays with Maury. And he wrote this book before he passed away. And his son and wife worked with the manuscript, got it into shape, and we've just published it recently to great acclaim, and it's doing unbelievably well. But anybody that loved Tuesdays with Maury, this is the natural extension. This is Maury himself, in his own words, talking about how to age gracefully. And it is a brilliant, brilliant book. And I don't say that about a lot of books.
Yeah, and you so graciously put me in touch with them. So I'm hoping to get them scheduled probably this summer because we're booked out. But
But
yeah, I'm
hope
excited. I'm excited about that. Thank you, Rick.
oh,
That's going to be awesome. Yeah. So let me let people know how they can reach out to you. Rick has a website, Rick Bleiweiss. Blei is spelled Blei, Weiss, WEISS.com. And so you can see the books there. You can learn more about Rick. You can also email him at createdbyrick@gmail.com. And you can find any of these books on Amazon. Like I said, let's see, the first one is Pinion Scorpion and the Barbershop Detectives. Okay, this is where you meet all those lovely characters we were talking about. And the second one is The Murder in Haxford. Are we going to have more Pinion Scorpion books, do you think?
Yeah, I should have mentioned that as well. I've already written probably about 40% of a third Scorpion book, and the main mystery, or there will be multiple mysteries, is about a young female magician who has a illusion that is so mystifying that even Harry Houdini, who I write into the book, can't figure it out. But wherever she performs, mayhem and robbery and mystery follow her, and she comes to Haxford.
Yes, and you introduced her at the end of the Haxford book. Yes. And then the compendium of short stories is called Hotel California, of which Rick's short story Mystery is in there. Another surprise twist at the end of that one.
Yeah, that's the first of a series of murder, music, and mystery books or anthologies. The next one is Thriller, which comes out this year. And then next year is Back in Black. And then
fun.
Bat Out of Hell will be the one after that. And I've got a story in each of them.
Oh, gosh. Okay. Well, I can't wait. I can't wait. Thank you. Well, let me tell the audience about our guest for next week. It's a bit of a turn. This whole past month, we've had authors. So now we're taking a shift. So my guest next week is Linda Rivero. And Linda is a coach, a counselor, and the creator of 55 and Bolder. After losing her husband of 53 years, Linda sunk into a deep despair. And as she says, she slogged her way back through the bleak landscape of grief and confusion to the brilliant world of regeneration and discovery. And this is what we're going to talk about next week, moving on after loss. And as you know, I always like to leave you with the belief that we can all live with curiosity, live with courage, and live with relevance. And we are never too old to set another goal or dream a new dream. Rick, what a pleasure to have you on. Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Okay.
Thank you for having me.
My name is Wendy Green, and this has been